January is not all about thriving. It isn't about setting all of these huge goals or just pretending that everything just magically resets itself because it's a new year and the calendar has changed. For me, this January is all about welcome to Not Another Money podcast. Why is it called Not Another Money podcast, you may be wondering? It's because this is not your typical money show. Get ready for real money conversations and lessons, expert insights from some of our very special guests, and hear some really inspiring stories from everyday people. On this podcast, you're going to learn how to earn more, how to spend less, how to grow the difference, and most importantly, live your best financial life. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Not Another Money podcast. It honestly feels so good to be back behind this mic, especially as we're just at the start of a new year. Even though, in all honesty, this year already feels very different to the new year that I'm seeing all over my Instagram and all over my TikTok. This is my first episode back in nearly 9 months. I can't believe I was away for so long. And over the last few months, I've really been contemplating about what I want my first episode back to be about. I knew this time around I didn't want to come back with any big hype, any big massive promises, or all of that new year, new me energy, because in all honesty that would not be true and reflective of where I am right now. And if we're being honest with each other, for some of you listening, that probably wouldn't be honest for where you are right now either. So for me, January is not all about thriving. It isn't about setting all of these huge goals or just pretending that everything just magically resets itself because it's a new year and the calendar has changed. For me, this January is all about stabilising. It's all about finding my footing again and being very intentional with the small things, especially at this time of year when money can feel extremely tight and the pressure of the cost of living is so real. So if you're tuning in today and you can relate to what I'm talking about and you're already feeling quite stretched and quite pinched, or you may just be a little bit cautious or even just a bit tired from 2025, I just want you to know that this episode today is for you. There's no judgment over here at all. You don't have the pressure over here to overhaul your life in 1 month, and there's absolutely no expectation that you should have everything figured out by now. I think for many of us, January just feels like such a heavy month, and I think it's because we're sold a lie. January is often sold to us as this brand new slate, the moment where everything is just supposed to go Bob's your uncle and be magically changed and refreshed overnight. You see all these posts on Instagram about these new habits, new goals, brand new me, new routines, new 2026 energy. But for so many families, January is actually the hardest month of the year because let's face it, that December spending does not just magically disappear because January's come around and Christmas is over. It catches up with you. Those credit card bills, they start to land. All those direct debits, they need to come out. The heating bill is much higher because temperatures have rapidly dropped. And now the children are all back to school and now those new routines are finally settling. And life doesn't just suddenly slow down because it's January. And then when you add on top of that the constant comparison that we live under in this social media age, all over your explore page you see people's posts about all of their new year routines and their new year habits that they're about to adopt and all of these challenges that people are doing, their savings goals, their money goals, their investment goals. It can quickly make you feel like you are behind even before the year has barely started. And I can't lie to you, I myself have felt that pressure. I have felt that constant voice and that constant urge to do more, to be more, that quiet voice that says you should have a plan by now, you should know what you're doing, you should be doing more. But let me say this to you clearly because I know somebody listening to this needs to hear this right now. If you don't have a shiny new budget and you don't have your 2026 all mapped out just yet, that does not mean you are failing. It just means that you are responding honestly to your current situation and circumstances, and that is okay. Sometimes one of the bravest things that you can actually do financially is just to admit to yourself that this current season isn't the growth season, it is the season for me to stabilize my finances and get myself on track. So when I talk about stabilizing finances, what does that actually mean for me and what am I doing in 2026 to try and successfully stabilize my finances? Well, when I say that January for me is all about stabilizing, this is what I mean, because stabilizing is not the same as giving up, and it isn't just sitting back doing nothing and letting life happen to you. For me, stabilizing simply means that I'm not chasing no big fancy money goals right now. I'm not setting myself no big aggressive savings targets or pretending to myself that January is suddenly just going to be the month that things miraculously turn around financially for me. I'm not going to put myself under any unnecessary pressure to turn things around quickly. Instead, my focus is going to be a lot simpler and a lot more kind. I'm going back to the basics. I want to know how much I have coming in and how much I have going out, tracking my expenses on a daily basis. Something that I used to do religiously a few years ago is something I've stopped doing over the last couple of years, and it's something I want to come back to because it's so important to know exactly where your money is coming from and where your money is going. When you have a clear understanding of where your money is going, then you can plug any of those leaks in your shit. I also want to be really disciplined with what I give my money to. So I'm going to streamline my spending in a way I have not done so in years. I think there's so much wisdom to be found in recognizing the season in life that you're currently in. Some seasons do require growth and expansion. Other seasons are about consolidation, about slowing down, taking care, and protecting the finances that you currently do have. I'm currently in a season where stability is my priority, and that's actually okay. So if you are currently in a similar season, I want to give you that permission to redefine what success looks like for you this January. It does not have to look like saving thousands of pounds or hundreds of pounds or hitting any monumental milestones. Sometimes success looks like staying afloat, not getting yourself into debt, and protecting your peace. I think it's so important to look at your numbers without issuing any blame or judgment to yourself or anyone else. So that's the first practical thing that I've done this January, is really sitting down and looking at my numbers honestly, looking at the last 3 months worth of bank statements and looking at where my money has been going without shaming myself or judging myself or condemning myself. And I know for a lot of you listening, that's probably going to be one of the hardest steps, because it's so much easier to avoid looking at those numbers than really facing what you've done over the last few months, because it's much, much easier to avoid looking than it is to pay attention to what is actually there staring you right in the face. For me, that was actually looking at my December bank statement and my mouth being on the floor when I realized how much money I had spent in the month of December. I'd done all these posts on social media about how disciplined I had planned to be in the month of December and how I wasn't going to spend too much on Christmas presents for my children or on Christmas in general. Yet, when I look at the numbers on my Monzo account, actually, I spent a lot more than I thought I was going to spend or than I actually thought I spent. My expectations did not meet my reality when it came to my December spend, but this was a humbling task to complete, and I didn't do it to condemn myself or beat myself up for the mistakes that I had made or for how I mismanaged my finances in December. Rather, I did that to give myself a reality check, and that reality check is so important when it comes to getting back on track with your personal finance, because you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. So when you're doing this task and you're going through your previous month's bank statement, really ask yourself some of these questions. Ask yourself, where have I spent my money in the month of December? Am I happy with giving X amount to X retailer? Am I happy spending X amount on this subscription? Really interrogate where that money went last month and ask yourself, are you okay with where your money went, and what can you do differently in January to make sure you don't do the same thing again? Another question to ask yourself is, what has surprised me from that statement? So when you look back over the last month, what retailers did you spend money with that you were surprised you spent so much money with? Did you spend a lot more than you thought you'd spent there? Did you go there more times than you thought you had been? Where did money quietly leak out without me noticing at the time? This first step is not about action, it's all about awareness. It's not the stage where you start to fix anything yet. It's just really comprehending what you have been doing with your finances over the last 1 to 2, 3 months. You really need to just see it clearly and have that clear picture, because the reality is you cannot change what you are not willing to look at. The more you avoid it, the more anxiety it's just going to cause you in the long run. So if you're listening to this podcast and you've made it this far and you're really feeling anxious about looking at the numbers and you just don't want to know, I really want to encourage you to have a look at those numbers. Approach it gently and give yourself compassion. Sit down with a cup of tea or your favorite drink and take a deep, deep breath and remind yourself that the numbers are just simply information and they are not in any way a judgment of your character. The next thing I would suggest to do is choose one thing that you're going to focus on for the month of January, just one financial goal for the month. We're not going to set ourselves 25 goals which we don't end up achieving. We just want to set that one money goal that we can commit to for the whole month, because that's exactly what I had to do. Once I had a clear picture and understanding of where my money was going, the next step was for me to set myself that financial goal for the month of January. And for me, that focus was simply to allow myself to wait 72 hours before making a purchase. So the 72-hour rule is something I've spoken about at length before on my YouTube channel and also on this podcast. And the 72-hour rule simply where if you want to make a purchase, rather than just impulsively tapping your card or parting with your cash, you want to give yourself 72 hours to stew on that decision and think if it's something you really want to buy. If after 72 hours you really want that purchase, then go back and make that purchase because you know you've considered it and it's not something you just purchased on a whim. As you're listening, just really have a think right now about what's one thing that you can commit to money wise for the month of January. So once you've taken a step of reviewing your money and seeing where it's all gone over the last 3 months, what can you commit to for the month of January to put yourself in a better position come February? So for me, it's making sure I'm not making those impulse purchases. For you, perhaps it could be to finally create that budget that you have said you're going to do for the last few years and you haven't done so. Let today be the day that you actually sit down and create that budget. Now you have a good understanding and grasp of where your money has been going over the last few months. Now you want to make an action plan for the month of January and for the month of February as to what you're going to be doing with your money. Rather than just spending it and working retrospectively, we want to be proactive and get in front of that money. If you would like to purchase a copy of the budgeting spreadsheet that I like to use to manage my finances, I'll link it in the description box below. Not only does it help you to create a budget, it also lets you track your variable income for the month and also track your expenses on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis so that you really can get a hold of where your money is going month to month. So if that's something you're interested in, I will link it in the show notes and in the description box and you can grab your copy. Another money goal that you could have for this month is to open your stocks and shares ISA account, or it could be to find out about your pension with your employer. Whatever it is, just one money goal that you know you can commit to for the month of January. That is a great place to start. The next thing you want to do is to put some money boundaries in place for yourself and for others. When I say money boundaries, these are by no means punishments for you or for anybody else. These are more like guardrails because the sole purpose isn't to restrict you in any way. It's just to help you to be more intentional and to guide you. So one of the things that I'm committing to doing is being more intentional with my food shopping. So rather than being impulsive when I hit the store and just buying whatever I feel like buying and making all these plans for the 100 meals that I'm going to cook that week and ending up making 2 out of them, what I'm doing now is being really intentional about my meal planning and prepping and having my list before I hit the stores so that I'm not wasting food and I'm not wasting money. Another money boundary that I'm doing this month is doing a full audit of my subscriptions. I don't have that many subscriptions in all honesty. So if you're listening right now and you have loads of subscriptions that you're not using or that you're underutilizing, or perhaps you can find a suitable alternative for a cheaper price, then now's a great time to really review those subscriptions and see if you can find better alternatives, cheaper alternatives, and ways to streamline that expense from your budget category. These kind of boundaries protect your peace because you're not having to make a decision at every single stage about every little thing that you do because you already have a plan of action which you're executing. So rather than every day thinking, oh, what do I want to eat for dinner today? Or, oh, should I get a cheeky takeaway? Actually, you already had a plan earlier and you have worked that plan and successfully completed that plan. Setting yourself these financial boundaries, what they do is they help to reduce decision fatigue. Boundaries are great because they protect your future self and they also protect your mental health. When money's feeling tight, the back and forth constantly can be very exhausting. So the beauty of having all of these guardrails in place is that it gives you extra breathing room. So one thing I'm going to be committing to for the month of January, and even dare I say for the rest of 2026, is tracking my expenses daily. This is a forgotten art that I used to do back in the days when I was in debt and once I really got serious about budgeting, but it's something I really want to return to because it's so beneficial for seeing what you're doing and getting on top of your spending patterns and behaviors. And I'm not doing this because I'm trying to be perfect with my money. By no means that's not the goal here. Perfection is not the goal here. I just really want to have visibility, understanding, and clarity around where my money is going on a monthly basis. Because I think having that visibility is going to give me a sense of control that I have not experienced in quite a while. And I'll be using my budget planner and expenses tracker that I spoke about earlier. So like I said, I'll link that in the show notes if you want to grab yourself a copy and start tracking your spending alongside me as the year progresses. So I don't want you to come to the end of this episode and feel really overwhelmed with how to tackle your finances in 2026. And I don't want you to feel like you have the longest to-do list that you need to get through. Here's all I want you to do today. One thing. That might be checking your bank balances. It may be creating that budget. It may be looking at your subscriptions. It might be tracking your expenses. It might be creating that meal plan. You don't need to do everything all at once. In fact, you can't do everything all at once. And you do not need to catch up. You're on your own journey with your personal finances, and it's important that you just stay focused on your money goals for this year. So if you're starting this year and you're feeling tired, or you're feeling cautious, or you're simply just trying to stay afloat, you are not behind, and you're certainly not alone. These tight seasons do not by any means define you, and they don't erase any of the progress that you've already made thus far. The start of 2026 for you might simply require a different pace and a little more grace. If you made it this far in the episode and you haven't given it a thumbs up, do me a favor and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to my channel, tell a friend to tell a friend, and I will speak to you on the next episode. Bye.